Hello, I'm Mike Graziano, and welcome to my channel. Today, I want to show you how to construct a really lovely, traditional kind of movement, the minuet and trio. It's usually the third movement of a classical symphony. If you've watched some of my other videos, then you know I've been showing you what a symphony looks like under the hood. I've been gradually composing one for you. Whether you want to compose music yourself or just understand it, I hope these videos are helpful. Today, I'll try to write an exemplary minuet and trio. By exemplary, I mean I'll try to make it follow the traditional classical rules exactly so you can understand the form. It won't be super imaginative. I won't bend the rules. We won't do a Beethoven here and try to get creative with the form. Let's aim for something more like Joseph Haydn, who, after all, helped establish these forms. The minuet and trio is a beautiful, simple movement, easy to compose, arguably the symphony movement that anyone should try to tackle first. It's a sandwich. First you have a minuet. It forms a complete little piece of its own with a definite ending. Then you have a trio section. It has a different character, lighter and more relaxed. Then the minuet comes back, and you're done with the movement. Each one of these sections has its own specific organization. I remember when I was little, about 6, I heard Mozart's Eine kleine Nacht music for the first time and was astounded, ensnared, you might say, by the perfect crystalline organization. It was the first time I understood that music could be built up out of specific parts, organized in a precise order. Let's start with the minuet. As always, we start with a sketch, one line of music that runs through the entire piece. The continuity sketch is everything. I like to write it in the first violin section, and then later I can distribute the notes to other instruments. A minuet is a nice easy dance in triple time, 3/4. Not too fast, not too slow. And it uses what's called two-part dance form, or two-part song form. It starts with an A section, a little tune. Here I just sketched out a cute little tune. It's absurdly simple. Let's just listen to how simple that tune is. You see how easy that is. I swear anyone can do this. It sounds very classical, a bit like Haydn, because of the obsessive way it comes back over and over to land on the ground floor, the C harmony. Now we need a longer B section. The B section wanders through some alternate harmonies, lingers on the 5 chord a bit, and then finds its way back to the tune. The end of the B section is really a return to a version of the main tune again. See, anyone can do this. I tell you, these are very simple tunes. Now let's move right along and sketch out the trio. Again, the trio is its own little compact piece of music. To emphasize that, I'm putting it in a different key, in F. It has the same organization as the minuet. It's in two-part form. So what distinguishes the minuet from the trio? Well, the name says it all. The trio is traditionally a moment of light chamber music, stuck into the middle of a heavy, denser symphony. It's an interlude, a little relief to the ears. It started out as literally a trio, 2 upper instruments playing in harmony, maybe a flute and an oboe, and a bass line at the bottom, maybe a cello. Over time, it evolved, so it no longer always had literally 3 instruments. It could encompass the whole orchestra. but it always retained that character of being a little breath of fresh air, a light relief for the ears. So here's my sketch of an A section and a B section. I sketched it out in the oboe to emphasize that it's more delicate. We'll fancy it up later when we orchestrate it. With a minuet and a trio sketched out, we're done with the first draft. It has all the right components. It's very simple, very straightforward. Nothing here is complicated. Before we orchestrate, let's listen to the complete sketch, the whole sandwich, the minuet, the trio, and the return of the minuet, just to get a sense of the flow and proportion of the piece. It's such a nice, well-organized way to create a movement, and it's so easy. But now we need to orchestrate it. Let's tackle the minuet first. You may have noticed the orchestra is bigger here than in my previous videos. I've added trumpets and drums. To show you a truly exemplary classical minuet and trio, I think I have to include the trumpets and drums. I find it helpful to fill in the string orchestra first, and here I'm just skipping all the boring work and getting right to the end result. Other people may have a different approach, but I like to write for standard string orchestra to outline the basic harmonies and voice leading. And here and there, like here, I'll add in a quick idea for other instruments, if it jumps out at me and I don't want to forget my idea. Let's listen to that string version without the repeats for now. You see how it's shaping up. But now for some color. How about we go for maximum contrast? The beginning is pure strings, a little subdued, and then, blam, the color comes in with a flourish. If you followed my previous videos, you know what I'm doing here, using the woodwinds in block chords to give a wall of sound, a kind of ringing background sound. One flute, two oboes, two bassoons, in very simple harmonies. I'm trying to be as unimaginative and traditional as possible, and it suits the very purposeful march-like feel of this tune. Let's listen first to the winds by themselves, so you can hear the simple balance in the chords. And now let's hear the minuet so far. It's getting there, but it needs some real fire, the brass and the drums. Listen to those by themselves and think about how utterly simple they are, just outlining the fundamental chords. It's almost childlike or primitive. I find something primal about the trumpets and drums. In classical music, you don't want them to be complicated or clever. That robs them of their power. Now let's hear part A of the minuet, fully orchestrated. That's as close to perfect as I can get. Now we need the same treatment for the B part. Sometimes they're simple block chords. Sometimes they double the contour of the strings. And that constant changing of alliances helps to keep the sound from getting boring. Now I can put in the horns, trumpets, and drums. In this piece, with its somewhat martial air, the horns and trumpets are largely working together to make that powerful brass sound. In other circumstances, the horns can play different roles, aligning themselves with this or that woodwind, this or that part of the strings. Horns can be soft and in the background, loud and stentorian, melodic, harmonic, probably the most versatile instrument in the orchestra. See, I put the double bassoon on that last low note, so it sounds like it means it. Now let's turn to the trio. I told you before, a trio doesn't have to be literally only 3 instruments, but that's kind of how it started, and it defines its spirit. And since I promised to write an exemplary movement, which follows all the rules as closely as possible, I'll make it a real trio. Let's stick with the wind sound, a lighter, more delicate sound. The orchestration becomes really easy, no more colors popping in and out, just choosing 3 instruments. The hard work is creating 2 counter melodies that are intricate enough to keep your attention, but not so much that it clutters up the music. And that took me a while. Filling out simple harmonies is one thing, but writing multiple interlocking parts requires some fussing and tweaking, at least for me. Here I'm skipping right to the final result. And let's listen to the whole trio. Super cute. I like parts of it, but I have an idea. In the B part, to me, it feels like it needs an extra sound, something new and surprising to add that extra little oomph. Maybe some plucked strings in the background, popping in suddenly, like this. That will sound very charming. And here's a second idea. We're going to have a problem with that ending. When we repeat the B section, there's going to be a big hole here, and a trio shouldn't have a gap in the middle. It should flow. So I'm going to write a first and a second ending. The first ending keeps it flowing. The second ending gives it a little pause before we return to the minuet. And I'll just copy in the orchestration for the minuet. Now we're ready to listen to the entire movement, each part of it in its right place, everything exactly as it should be. Of all movements in a classical symphony, the minuet in trio is the most traditional. It follows the strictest rules. It's perfectly ordered. It's literally an 18th century ballroom dance. You can break the rules. You can do anything you want. Beethoven often stretches the rules. Try the third movement of the Fifth Symphony. It's a warped minuet and trio with the end shriveled up and turned into a bridge passage to the last movement. It's bizarre, and yet it works magnificently. My goal here was to show you the origin, the basic vanilla form, to show you the rules that composers can choose to follow or break if they wish. If you listen to Mozart symphonies or Haydn symphonies, you'll see that almost all of them have a minuet and trio, and they almost all perfectly embody the rules. And here we have our own minuet and trio that was so easy to write, just some simple tunes in the right order. I think anyone can do it. Or if you don't want to compose music, then the next time you hear a minuet and trio, you can say to yourself, aha, I know how that's put together. I understand it now. Anyway, let's listen to the whole movement.